Good evening. It is July 25th, 2024, and I'd like to welcome you to the first meeting of the South Brunswick Board of Ed for 2024-2025 school year, and to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we'll be reading the Statement of Advance Notice. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10-4-6, also known as the Sunshine Law, was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which time any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. The primary purpose is for board members to discuss and vote on board business. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the board secretary has caused notice of this meeting 48 hours prior, including date, time, and location, to be posted in the South Brunswick Public Library, the board office, filed with the township clerk, and communicated to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger. It is also posted on the district website. Moving on, Mr. Pawlowski, roll call, please.
Ms. Julie Ferrara, Ms. Laura Hernandez, Ms. Deepa Karthik, yes. Ms. Alicia Khan, here. Mr. Raja Krishna,
here.
Mr. Mike Mitchell,
here.
Mr. Barry Nathanson,
here.
Dr. Smitha Raj, Ms. Lisa Rogers.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Before we move on to approval of the agenda, I'd like to make a motion that we might have to adjust it. Mr. Fetter, the superintendent, is stuck in traffic, so we may have to move some things around. So can we just move forward with that?
My suggestion would be that you just flip-flop the report of the superintendent and the presentation.
Perfect. Okay.
Yep.
Everybody
so
okay with that?
The presentation will go first, and then Scott will be here by the end of the presentation.
All right. Anybody have any issues with that? No. Great. Thank you. Okay, so I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Mitchell, move. Mr. Raj, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Very good. Moving on, the agenda has been approved. Next order is board minutes. The board secretary, Mr. Pawlowski's draft of the minutes from May 30th, 2024 board and executive minutes, as well as board minutes of June 13th, 2024, were posted on the board portal. Are there any changes from any board member? Seeing none, the minutes stand as written and are approved. Thank you, Mr. Pawlowski. Okay, next is a report of the president. Normally we have the report of the student representative, but she's not here today. Just two quick things. Middlesex County School Boards have posted their schedule of meetings. Please note that there are 5 dates: October 7th, the 12th, and December 12th, February 6th, as well as March 26th, which is the Unsung Heroes Awards ceremony, and Wednesday the 21st, which is the Spring Celebrations Dinner and the County Teacher of the Year. All of the meetings are hybrid, with the exception of February 6th, which is virtual, so please try to attend. Secondly, as advised to all members, we had canceled the retreat meeting that was originally scheduled for Tuesday, May 7th due to the budget hearings, which took precedent. Due to summer vacations, the retreat was then, let me just back that up. We then agreed that we would maybe do the retreat tonight, but due to summer vacations, it was also canceled. Therefore, based on comments that I received back from the board, we will hold the retreat for January 2025. However, any items that members feel need to be discussed prior to that day, please notify myself and Mr. Federick, and we will consider that for new business. Secondly, at our August meeting, we will vote on new goals, the board goals for 24-25, and we will review at the same time the past year's goals. All right? Any questions? Anybody? Nope. Okay. Again, next is the report of the superintendent, but since Mr. Federer is not here yet, we're going to move on. We'll move on to the presentation of the New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment for Spring 2024 results by Suzanne Luckborn. Suzanne, it would be better for us to be out there, or is it okay for us? What do you think? We could just turn? Okay. So the presentation you can see in the back. Thank you, Ms. Luckborn.
Good evening, board and colleagues, to our viewers at home in the live stream or those that will be watching the recording. Thank you for allowing me to come and share with you the results of our spring NJGPA. test that was given to our juniors in the class of 2025. Annually, we are required to report out publicly 60 days after we receive those results, which is why this test is reported out during the summer months. The NJSLA and other assessments will be reported out in the fall of 2024. Board members, we will make this available to you in the portal so that you will have an up-close look after tonight's presentation. My apologies for not getting it there sooner. I want to thank Jamie Bomer, our Director of Special Projects, and Jeff Ruman, who is the Assistant Principal at South Brunswick High School, for helping to put the data together tonight that you're going to see. So just to provide a background, the New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment is a fairly new assessment. Our junior class participates in that test in the spring, usually during the month of March. It is in English Language Arts and Mathematics. There is 2 units in each content. Each unit is 90 minutes. So as you can see there, the passing score is 725 on each, ELA and Mathematics. So since this is a graduation assessment requirement, all students need to pass or show competency to be able to graduate at the end of their senior year. So there are multiple opportunities to successfully meet that benchmark. So first, a student takes the NJGPA. If they are unable to pass, they are given an opportunity to retake that test in the fall of their senior year. If still unsuccessful, the second pathway is that I'm going to share with you on the next slide a number of other assessments that would count or meet that requirement. And third and finally, if a student is still unable through those standardized measures, there's something called the portfolio appeal through the New Jersey Department of Education that is administered and then scored. I think it's important to also note that a student could pass in one subject and not the other, and then we would just work towards reaching that benchmark in the other subject. So they may not pass them both at the same time. So the second pathways that exist for our students, you will see those spelled out in English Language Arts. I'm not going to read it to you, but I'll share some examples. For example, there's an AccuPlacer assessment. The PSAT, the SAT are just some examples that can be used in both ELA or math, and those are the scores that you see listed there that they would need to achieve. We're required to share with you kind of that historical, just a comparison. So we've chosen to show you the class, the 2023 juniors and the 2024 juniors, just so you can see. You can see 712 students in 2023, 662. That is part of a decrease in some of our enrollment as we see our grade levels moving through our system. You can see that in both years, 93% of our students met that proficiency. And in the past year, we had that small percentage, 7, that did not yet meet that expectation in ELA. So that 7%, we are aware of who they are, and we are actively planning for how to get them to meet that requirement. And then our math results look a little different. You can see that 81% of our students in the junior class were proficient, 19% were not. And once again, we know who those 19% are and are planning now for them. And the planning work really is credited to their counselors at the high school, along with the teachers and the supervisors in the various departments. So mathematics departments here, and in the other case, it was the English Language Arts department, who are working to identify those students and prepare them for the next administration in the fall. In addition, we're required to report out on our subgroups. And so I just want to orient you to this chart that you see here. The blue tells us our percentage that are graduation ready. And this slide here is the English Language Arts slide. And the red represents the percentage that is not graduation ready. So we can see that on the far left of that chart, if we're looking at it, that is the South Brunswick, and right next to it is the state of New Jersey. So you will see that 93% of our juniors have met the requirement and 82% at the state of New Jersey. Following across, you can see our Hispanic subgroup, our American Indian, which is a very small subset, and in some cases it might be somebody who has identified themselves mistakenly. We've been working to clean that up. Asian, Black, white, economically disadvantaged, and then our students with disabilities. So at a quick glance, you can see that above 20% of Hispanic and students with disability would be our area of focus to support those students, but we do need 100% to pass. So we are working with all of those.
Does the state break down the state results disaggregated or no?
State has not yet provided disaggregated for New Jersey. Correct, Scott. And I would say once again that we do know who those students are. Our counselors are actively tracking those particular individual students. I would say that what's not shown on this slide is that during the class of 2023, the juniors in 2023, last year's seniors, 69% of our Black population had not met, and this year we're seeing that 82% had met. Still not at that 100, but we are seeing some progress, at least a positive one in that respect. And again, this is the math representation, reminding you that the blue is the percent that was proficient, not graduation ready is the red. Definitely a difference between our ELA and our math when you look at this particular slide. The overall, 19%, as I said earlier, in comparison to the state of New Jersey, where 45% on that math assessment were not graduation ready. And you see our subgroups in some cases are close to 50, and in one case our Hispanic population above 50%, actually 61% not proficient. So when we know this information, we use it to plan for the students, and I want to share with you what comes next is the timeline of some of the things that are happening. So,
Question real quick. The students with disability, are they also subcategorized?
yes.
So
Yes.
they're not being counted twice, though?
They do count in each category.
If you have
It's not a
So,
discrete count.
If you have a student with disability who's white or Hispanic, they're in both categories?
Yes, they could be counted in an Asian category, a student with disability, and an economically disadvantaged. You could be seeing them in each of those. Yes. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
So back in June, when the results came, parents were made aware of their students' scores. They received those scores. And I'll just show you here. In the fall, our students and parents will be contacted if their child needs additional help to pass that next attempt of the test. And then in the fall and winter, the departments of English and math will be working on prepping any remaining students to take an AccuPlacer, which is that second pathway that I described. And if unsuccessful there, and there were no other pathways that met that requirement, then our staff in those departments would begin working on the portfolio appeals for the remaining students. And so it does become a year-long task for those seniors that have not yet met that requirement, that our guidance department, like I said, counselors and the teachers in those content areas would be working with students to get them to pass the assessment. That is my last slide. I did see at least one more hand, so if we wanted to just take any questions that came up, I'm happy to answer what I can.
Questions? Ms. Carthy?
So, Susan, if you flip the math proficiency, yes. So, these distinct subgroups, right, the racial subgroups that you have here, but they are double counted in the economically disadvantaged as well as students with disabilities, correct?
Yes.
So, or you could have, let's assume in, let's say in Asian, you would have in that particular number, percentage 7, you could have that double counted at economically disadvantaged and student with disability.
Yes. Yes. So someone who's in that 7% Asian not meeting could also be part of the 43% economically disadvantaged not meeting and also part of that 36% of the students with disabilities, correct?
Questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Yes?
What happens with the 7% math and the 19% ELA students who are not graduation ready?
So,
Can you give like an example? of what-
so first of all, parents are informed, and then through the English department and the math department, they offer resource center blocks, which are additional support periods that teachers are working specifically on strategies to help those students, or elements of that core curriculum that might give them that opportunity to pass. And I would share that the breakdown that we receive in that student report lets us know which standards or competencies where they fell short. So we kind of can hone in on maybe where that weakness is to increase that.
And are those students also encouraged to do extended school day?
It's usually embedded within the school day.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yep.
So then how much time does the team have to improve these kids to get the numbers up?
Well, they have the whole school year, but they have there could be students participating in some of the summer work that we have going on, but then they also have the start of the school year where they could be working during their that HAP period or during that resource period I described. They usually have that first 6 weeks. I believe they sit sometime during the month of October to take that test again.
So is this number after that effort has been made or before the effort?
This is the effort before those interventions.
So this is going to improve, you mean to say?
It will improve, yes, yes.
Any questions?
We have very few students that end up needing that alternate pathway. The third one I described, that portfolio appeal, usually that's some of our students that with disabilities that need a different type of assessment or measure.
So do you have something from last year where what level we found out and how much we improved?
So one of the things I can share when I report out in the fall, and I would have that sooner, is how many students, how they graduated. So we are able to identify how many graduated using the NJGPA and how many students graduated using one of those alternative pathways and how many students graduated using the portfolio appeal process. So we're able to look at that data from year to year now that we've had a couple years administration of the NJGPA.
One last extension, sorry. Sorry. The English and math, are there common students in that, and what is the percentage of that to the overall graduation class?
Rephrase that one more time.
So if there's a child who's an ELA,
Yes.
And math.
how many of those children are also math
Oh.
or vice versa? What
We-
percentage are both?
I don't have the percentage in front of me
How many
tonight.
independent students are not currently
Right.
qualified through the test?
Thank you. It is possible that there are students in both ELA and math as part of that number. We do have that behind the scenes. I don't have it here this evening, but we're able to identify who need to do both tests again. Thank you.
Mr. Nathanson?
So you identified the alternate ways that a student can graduate. Were there any group that didn't graduate last year, or the numbers are really low at that point?
To my knowledge, Barry, we didn't have any students not graduate because of the assessment requirement.
Okay.
Good question. Anybody else? I just have, can you go back to the actual list of possible opportunities they have, the different tests? Yeah, so the PSAT is taken in the, correct me if I'm wrong, the junior year, correct? No, I forgot. When is PSAT taken? Is that?
Sophomore.
Sophomore, right, thank you. So the PSAT required score, if they, for reading, get a 21 or greater, if they do not pass an ELA, they can utilize that particular.
As long as they've sat for the NJGPA and the retest.
So they still have to sit, even if, so,
So to open up the pathway, you do need to show that you weren't successful in the first opportunity and the makeup opportunity or the retest
so
opportunity.
even if you got a 30 on ACT, right? 30 on ACT, which is like amazing. You still have to take NJGPA, no matter what. Yeah, okay. It's so ridiculous. Don't get me started.
And
Okay.
it is, so the students that we're watching, like for example, the 46 students in ELA, when they sit in October, we sometimes have that second pathway already identified that they will be successful even without the results
Right.
of the NJGPA.
So you already have
Correct.
a forewarning on
Right.
it. Because I was going to say, you know, is there any way to encourage all students or the identified students to take the PSAT to get that score? But it really doesn't matter because they still have to sit for that NJ.
Correct.
So maybe instead of, flip the narrative a little bit. So instead of saying the test is only for graduation, let's say that the test is more about assessing ourselves versus the rest.
Oh, I agree.
So if we approach it that way, the state needs to do its part and give
Yeah.
us disaggregated data
Yeah,
so that we could do that. 'Cause
Yeah.
otherwise, and then yes, to both the questions that were asked before, you know, we'd have to do a manual dissection to see when you pull out, and we had talked about this in a previous year, when you pull out a cadre, let's say you just pull out special education students for a moment, where are those students and what happens to those other categories when you do that? So there's a lot of manual work you could do, but at the end of the day, if the state isn't going to produce these disaggregated results,
what's the
it's not really telling us anything.
Right, exactly.
Because you can't compare yourself to yourself and
Right.
say you did great or bad. You need to know,
different, you have
you know,
different
and
subsets.
seeing that the state is using a test that has a 45% failure rate across the entire state is a problem.
Right.
I mean, you can't have a 45% failure rate and
Right.
call that a good assessment.
Right.
You wouldn't in the classroom. If 45% of your kids failed a test in the class, you'd be looking at yourself as the teacher saying, whoa, what am I doing here? Because I don't think I taught to the material that's being done. So, you know, we can do all of that, but if you had disaggregated results, or if you just go back to the disaggregated page for math,
And you know, I don't have an issue.
I'm not going to, I have a new point.
Okay.
So this is a point that I think our board and our community needs to understand about South Brunswick schools, is we have an 81% in the aggregate because of one subgroup,
Right,
period.
right.
You remove that one subgroup, we are not an attractive performing district.
Correct.
The aggregate looks good on all of our test results every year, always. So what we've done over the years is, and this is a conversation I know that we had, Lisa, recently, when in 2017, when I think that was the year I arrived, Suzanne, how many support specialists did the district have? K-8. Outside of the classroom, not your typical IS, above the standard IS teacher in a building. How many coaches, specialists?
About 18.
Not how many IS teachers, not IS teachers, above IS teachers.
One,
Zero,
two.
one,
One, right? Now, currently, we have 6 in the middle school,
yes.
and we have 6 in the elementary school. And when we look at budget and we look at where money needs to go, this is telling you, if you do not focus your energy
So I was getting to.
on these groups that are struggling, and I'll say for special ed, I mean, look, our special ed students, actually outperformed the states in the aggregate. So I'm not really looking at that number going, oh my God, our special ed kids. Our special education students are special education because they've been identified to have a learning disability and being substantially behind grade level. So to take a test and still score 64%, it's pretty good. Like I'm not like looking at that and going, oh my God. However, your other subgroups, look at your Hispanic subgroup, your black subgroup, your white subgroup, your economically disadvantaged subgroup. That's basically, if you can get those numbers up, the district will explode in performance results. Explode. And so we put energy there, we put money there to try and work on any student that struggles. We don't look at the kid and say, well, we want that kid because they're that. Just any kid who struggles. But it is expensive, and it is necessary to have a focused plan to support these groups. We can't just look at these results. It's the same results every year. It's been this way long before, 25 years before I arrived for my second stint here. Same results. And, you know, it's not only us, but I keep saying, why can't we be the one to solve some of it? Like, why can't we figure this out? And unfortunately, it does take money. And certainly, if you were economically disadvantaged during COVID, there's a more likelihood that that was a real struggle time than if you had a parent that was home, for example, who could support. So, you know, there's pieces here, but we cannot look at that 81% and go, look how much we've crushed the state by.
Correct.
Absolutely not.
Correct.
It's not a good thing to do, and I fear we get caught in that in this district, and suburban districts get caught in this because we pat ourselves on the back because of the aggregate number, and we shouldn't.
I agree 100%, and that's actually where I was going with this, is that while we have all these great tests, right, and we have great scores, we still have a group of individual students that are still not there yet. And that was going to be one of the questions I have is, while I know that we've increased tremendously the support, it comes down to what can we do as a community. And I don't know what that answer is, and I don't know if you know that answer, but what can we do as a community to help support these students? Because since I've been here on this board, on this side, not on that side, you know, my focus was, what are we doing for that BC student, that C student? They're the ones that need our most support. They sometimes get lost, right? Because we have all this stuff going on for the top students, and we have stuff going on for those that really do need support, economically disadvantaged, what have you. But there's that C student, that average kid, just can't cut the mustard. And what's the score, 725? And maybe scored a 720, you know? And it's frustrating. I can't imagine that student. So I really want to understand, and maybe this is something that we can take offline, but what can we do as a community to support these kids? It doesn't just take the family. Go ahead, yeah. It's on, is it on?
There's nothing to hit.
Could you put Evelyn on, please?
Just start talking.
So we've had to focus we've had to address this issue multiple ways. There are so many opportunities we have. We want students to take advantage of it. To Mr. Mitchell's point earlier, due days day, extended day. We are offering tutoring. We're trying to offer after-school help. In the high school, most teachers are available after school to help students. They have to take advantage of that. And then from the curriculum and instructional side, we've added more resources that helps break down a lot of these standards and what students have to learn so that we can meet them where they are when they're struggling. So we've identified the different ways that we can go from here to, you know, meet the kids here and then build and scaffold up. So that's what we've done this last year. And then from the instructional practice side, that is where job-embedded ongoing PD happens. So we're really investing in consultants coming in and working side by side with our teachers so that they can see the particular type of need that the students exhibit and how we can go about doing that. So that will take us a few years before we start to see some level of change, but I believe that we are there. We want students in school though.
That's the key.
Because last year when we looked at the data of the students who weren't engaged, part of it was we looked at how often they were not in school, and that had an impact. So those things we have to address multiple ways. And so as a community, if you want to know what to do, send the kids to school. Make sure they come to school and stay.
Yeah. Let me take that one step further. When are we identifying that these students are going to need that type of support? How young are we going? I mean, because we do testing, right? And we have that data. So at what point do we, the analysis, what does the analysis tell us? And then at what point in that child's K through 12 years are we saying, okay, we need to target that student and that family because they need support?
From kindergarten. I could tell you categorically, I've been here 2 years, going on the third year, that we do have profiles, assessment profiles and learning profiles of kids from kindergarten, first, second grade, and we're moving on to third this year. So we're pinpointing, we're identifying.
Yeah.
So the goal is to shrink and shrink the gap and then it's build up as they move through the grades.
And I would add to that, Lisa, just this morning we had a group of kindergarten teachers here at BHL working with our pre-K teachers, sharing the data that's coming out of that program on students. 134 students, we now have a profile on those students from their 4-year-old experience that is helping to inform the placements into kindergarten and allowed kindergarten teachers a sneak peek at where those students are functioning related to some letter sound correlation and basic numbers.
That's important, yeah. Pre-K, that one of the huge benefits of getting that pre-K program is we have earlier assessments going on. Was there a question down here? Yep, Mr. Krishna.
What is the percentage where a kid is assessed that he's proficient? And is that mandated by the state?
In terms of
Can
proficiency.
you repeat that? I didn't hear you.
Percentage that he has to get, 75%, 80%?
You mean for this test?
Yes, yeah.
It's a 725 on this test.
75.
720. Decided that's the number.
And that has been mandated by the state or?
Yes, that's the cut score that was state driven.
All those things are generated by state reports. Deepa.
So I think Dr. Mammon just hit the nail on the head.
Go closer.
With her explanation. So I think you made a very, very good point, Dr. Mammon, about the resources that are available, and to Mrs. Rogers' question about what can the community do. I think it has to come together, right?
Yeah.
The resources that you are providing and all of the programs that you have put in place to ensure that you close this gap has to also be met from the other end of it. That's very key. So my question actually is related to the subgroups. So you have identified the subgroups that are present. In terms of closing that gap, is your strategy different from subgroup to subgroup?
Not necessarily. It would be the execution of the strategy that might be different, but the strategies are the strategies. So, for instance, if we're looking at reading. Once we know what the standard is, we can break down to say, if a child doesn't know what a theme is, what should they know in order for them to be able to figure out the theme? And you go down that way. So it doesn't matter whether the child is Hispanic, Black, economically disadvantaged. The strategies are the same. You meet the kids where they are. There might be a slight difference with a special education child, because of whatever it is the classification is and how one might go about that. But otherwise, no, the strategies is just execution of it.
Okay, so in other words, what I was trying to understand is that the subgrouping is, it doesn't play a role in the final execution of the strategy to close this gap. So it isn't that relevant in that case.
No.
Right? Because
kids are kids, what they need is what they need, and we
Thank
meet them
you.
where they are.
That's what I wanted to get to. Okay, thanks.
I have one more question. Does anybody else first have a question? These assessments, they're also given to ELL students? Yeah? So some of the students have difficulty still, I would assume?
Yes.
That's a major assumption on my part.
If you're new to the country, though, in your junior year, you don't take the ELA, but you take the math.
So, okay, let's take that for a second. The math has, it's not 2 + 2, it's questions, correct?
There's a great deal of reading and problem solving and explaining your work, even within the math.
So you've got ELL students taking math that they need to understand the English language.
How hard would it be to disaggregate further from the state and come back in, not an August meeting,
Right.
not summer, September, October, with disaggregating this data by pulling out something like our ELL. If we just look at our ML students, period, out of all the categories that they fit into, right? You could relook at data that way and say, because you want to try and nail down exactly what our challenge is with this, with any data. And the further we can deep dive, regardless of what the state does.
Right.
So I would suggest we
can look at our
regroup.
MLs, yes.
We regroup after, stop for now, we'll regroup.
Yeah.
And we come back, start with Ed Committee, and present some disaggregated work on these numbers and any other data we have that shows what happens when you do influx a group of 150 ML students taking a test. Why would they be able to pass that test? It makes no sense, right? At that level, why would they be able to? Like, I wouldn't be able to pass that in any other language other than
Right.
English. Even after a year, I'm sure I wouldn't be able to. So let's regroup and do some more work with these numbers, our own work, not just the state. They're not very helpful. And see what we can come up with and present back to Ed Committee first, handle some questions there, and then come back to the full board.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think that would be great. It would help us to understand that specific target. Excellent. Any other questions? Thank you. That was a very good discussion. Thank you. Thank you to the board members and Dr. Mammon as well. Good? All righty. Thank you, Suzanne. All right, we're going to skip back to the report of the superintendent, Mr. Federer.
I'll be quick. I apologize. Kindergarten registration is open. Get those kids in. If you know of anybody, tell them, get them in. Summer reading and summer assignments are all up in the middle and high schools. You can find those out now. Supply lists, they're on the K-8 website, so you can go up there and you can do that. Genesis Parent Portal forms will be available the week of August 12th. Elementary homerooms and middle school units will be available the week of August 20th. Just a reminder for any parents who are watching, if you are borrowing a Chromebook, there is a fee, an insurance fee. If you do not pay that, we are shutting down your computer this summer. So I'm asking Sharon, anyone who's unpaid, their computer is being shut off on Monday, if they haven't already been shut off. Now, I think they've all already been shut off for anyone who hasn't paid yet. We're not supplying a free computer over the summers for people who are not choosing to pay the price unless there's a financial reason. Of course, then we work with any family with a financial reason. So I'm going to ask Sharon to reach out one more time to any family that has not paid. We'll give them a grace period. And if they still do not pay, that computer is being shut down. They will not be able to get a new one or up that one until that payment is paid for this last year and then paid in advance for next year. Period. That's the way we're going to do that from now on. So there's not going to be any issues with that. And we have to move. So it's important. Board members, please mark your calendars. We'll put a notice in there. We found out that October 17th, we don't know how this happened actually, but October 17th was our board meeting scheduled date. It's a Thursday. And the Ed Foundation also has planned their taste of on that night. They can't move theirs, so we're going to move ours. So can you look and see if there's a major conflict right now with the 15th, which is the Tuesday? If you can look on your personal calendars and see if Tuesday is viable for at least the people here.
Tuesday the 17th.
Tuesday the 15th of October. Is there any issue with that date that where we would not be able to hold the meeting that date? You're good? Senior night, you're no good? Okay, one down.
I'm good.
Huh? Okay. Barry's good, Lisa's good, Alicia's good. You're checking, Rush?
You have to give me a few minutes.
Huh?
You have to give me a few minutes because, we have to.
We'll come back
Yeah.
to you on that. So so as long as we have our quorum, we're going to have to move that night to help out the Ed Foundation. They've been good to us, and we don't want them to try and have to figure out how to move that night for themselves. Why this happened, we don't know yet, but we will make sure this doesn't happen again in the future. I don't know what happened here. Our next board meeting is August 22nd, so hope everyone's having a good summer so far, and continue to have a good summer. We'll see the board back on August 22nd, and any committee meetings that need to happen between now and then will be given out to the board, and we'll take it from there.
Any questions
And
for
my
Mr.
report.
Fetter? I actually have two. What's our K enrollment right now? Do we know? Kindergarten enrollment? Do we have any idea?
Yes, give me 1 second.
Okay. And then, I don't know who can answer this question, but it's regarding the computers. I have a question.
Go ahead, ask the question.
So-
A second.
The question I have is regarding notification and acceptance of notification. Are we just sending out emails, or are we requesting some type of a tag on the email received, or something that states that the individual actually received notification that they are due, that they owe money?
Everyone who has not paid is fully aware they have not paid.
Okay.
There's
But
zero
in the-
doubt. And if you tried to make a payment and it didn't go through, you fully know that happened as well.
Okay.
Anyone who tells you anything else
No,
is a straightforward lie,
so.
period.
So the question I have, though, is coming in September, when we have the same process in place, where they have to pay in advance.
They'll be given notice until September 30th.
And-
On September 30th, they'll receive additional notices, and if they still choose, it's a choice to not do their obligation, that
Okay.
computer is not going to be functioning for that
Okay.
kid, period.
All right, that's fine. I just wanted to.
Unfortunately, we are not in the position
Right.
financially
No, we're
to
not
just
going
give
to.
computers away to
No,
everybody
no.
and manage that. We're just not.
I just don't want to
Wish we
hear
were.
that I didn't get the email.
Well,
That's what I don't want to hear. So
you're
how
not
do
going to
we
hear
know?
that. And even if you heard that, we'd prove that that was not correct.
That's what I want to know. that
We can always
have
prove that's
proof.
not correct.
Very good.
Let me check our kindergarten
Thank you.
enrollment.
That's what I want to know.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
far, all right, as of Monday of this week, we have, let me go through them all, 41, 82, not gonna do math, 151, 194, it's low, 231,
It's 4 or 5 schools,
279,
5 schools.
342.
That's low. So 342 is incoming
As of
kindergartners.
this moment, 342. That'll
Holy
grow
moly.
probably by another 100-ish kids,
That's still low.
but that's where we are, 342.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, okay, October 15th, guys, is good.
Good.
So please mark your calendars for October 15th. We are going to move the date. David's office will advertise the change and make sure that's all corrected and covered.
School boards is the following week.
School boards is the next week, so we can't obviously move it to that Thursday. If you have, hopefully you've all taken care of whatever you need to do for school boards, so hopefully we'll all be there. And that's it.
Very
That's
good.
that's my report.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Thank you so much, Mr. Federer.
And thank you for checking Deepa.
Okay, moving on, board committee and liaison reports. Since it's been a slow summer, does anybody have on the board any board update from any update to the board on committees? Mr. Nathanson,
Yeah.
make it
so,
short.
Yeah, it is short. Hey, I get my go-ahead from Mr. Pulaski. He makes everything short. So I have the last couple business ops updates, and both dealt with our cafeteria contracts, where the business ops were involved with talking to or listening to both Chartwell's and our new service in how do you pronounce that? Machios? Machios. And we got to listened to both organizations. We actually got to taste food from both organizations. And the board knows and the public know by now that we have decided to go in a different direction with Macchio's. And from what I've heard already, they're off and running and doing a great job so far. So, you know, they brought most or all of Chartwell's employees back, I believe, and doing a great job going into the start of the school year. So they'll be ready. So.
Just one question for Barry.
Yeah.
Barry, there was a talk that.
Louder, please, you need to talk in.
I can't even hear.
Yeah, there was a date that was going to get decided to tasting for the whole board.
Yeah, the whole board to do
Tasting.
it.
So,
Okay, we can make that happen.
Or visit.
so, or visit or something, because most of the board members were not there, so they had expressed
Why don't we try August 22nd at
a
6:30?
qualification,
Got it.
Or like 6:15 for dinner,
yeah.
all right?
Yep.
We'll try the next August meeting. We'll try
Okay.
to see if that's possible. If it is, we'll share an email with everybody to come before the meeting starts.
So they'll come here and we can.
We're going to send you an email to get that done.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
And once they get up and started, Dave, we had talked about maybe visiting the high school, giving them a chance. So maybe open that up to board members who'd like to go see, because we want to see the signage that they were going to do and all that fun stuff. So if we could do that too, that'd be great. Any other questions for Mr. Nathanson? Any other board committee update? Any liaison updates? No. Okay, so to the chairs, what I will ask, if you can, just to send out to your committees that still exist through the end of the year, provide the dates for your next set of board meetings through December. It would be greatly appreciated. Okay, moving on. We're over here, public comments. Okay. So the Board of Education recognizes the value of public comments on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. Complete copies of Policy 0167, which govern this portion of the meeting, are available to the public online or by contacting the board office. We ask that participants be recognized by the preceding officer, announce your name, place of residence, group affiliation, and complete the sign-in sheet. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question board members. Mr. Pawlowski, do we have any pre-registrations?
None.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment?
No.
I know, we'll give you a chance. I have to say that. Seeing no one in the audience. Yeah.
You don't.
You actually don't.
Oh, I was
There's
told I do.
nobody here.
Okay.
You're running, you're running.
Possibility of
right.
a public comment.
I was told that I
We
still
can
have to
just say
because
public
somebody
comment.
could walk in.
Nobody here,
Okay.
and now we move
Anyway,
on.
there's nobody
I'll go
here.
in the audience and say no.
There's nobody here at this point, so we will close this section of the public comments. Okay, old business, seeing none, moving on, new business, seeing none. Again, for new business though, next month, we will have the 2023-2024 goals as well as 24-25 goal discussion. Next order of business is the consent agenda review by Mr. Pawlowski.
All right, everybody, I sent out the consent agenda update for everybody to see back on Monday, Tuesday. If there are any questions on any of the motions in this agenda, let's have them. It's a pretty standard agenda. There's all of our business operations that need to occur. There's some contracts that need approving, some bids that went out, approving all of our services, professional services, and you have your HIB, you have your personnel. It's a pretty straightforward summer consent agenda.
I have one question. So all the RFPs that we sent out, we've either stayed with the prior company or gone to a new company. That's all complete, correct?
Correct. If we had moved any vendor, the board would have been involved.
Okay.
And you'd have been notified,
Like
Thank you.
Machios.
like Mashios and food service.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Pawlowski before we vote? Mr. Pawlowski, may I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Nathanson. Ms. Karthik, seconded. Roll call, please.
Ms. Deepa Karthik?
Yes.
Ms. Alicia Khan?
Yes.
Mr. Raja Krishna?
Yes.
Mr. Mike Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Barry Nathanson?
Yes.
Ms. Lisa Rogers?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on, second opportunity for the public to comment on any matter. Mr. Pulaski, has there been any pre-registrations for the second comment?
There's 14
I am having so much fun with that. I just had to have fun with that. Seeing no one in the audience, we will close this portion. Come on, I have to have a little fun. Very good. All right, please note again, our next scheduled meeting is Thursday, August 22nd. Moving on, we do have an executive session. Please remain seated until I'm finished. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of South Brunswick hereby moves into an executive session in accordance with Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, 10-4-6 through 10-4-21, to discuss the following personnel matters. Be it resolved that the discussion conducted in executive session can be disclosed to the public at such time as the matters have been resolved. Formal action may be taken at any meeting. May I have a motion and second to adjourn to executive session?
So moved.
Mr. Mitchell moved. Mr. Raja seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
On behalf of the South Brunswick Board of Ed, enjoy the remaining weeks of summer. Thank you to all for a wonderful summer break, and we'll see you here next month. Oh, gavel.